I once had an 8th grade science teacher tell me that on my report card, you earn what you get and you get what you earn. Since we're giving out grades on this episode of Locked On USC, the Pac-12 refs get a solid FU. That's what's coming up next on this episode of Locked On USC.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Hulkin, and thanks for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. Whether you are watching on YouTube or wherever you like to download your podcast, we are free. And I want to thank you so much for coming along for the ride. I hope you're enjoying the show. For those of you who already have, thank you so much. For those of you who haven't and are watching on YouTube, if you see that red subscribe button, hit it. I'd appreciate it. I will appreciate it. And it means a lot more than you even realize. And for those of you who just want to hear the voice and not have to look at the face, also understandable. You can also follow me at my Twitter at Mark Culkin, MarkCulkin. So what grade did the team earn, and did they deserve what they're going to get? You can tell me after the show. Give me your responses. Grade it, if you will. Regardless of whatever grades you're going to give each position group, after I offer my grades, you have to give them an A for effort, regardless. That shouldn't even be up for debate. I mean, just to remind everybody, this team went on the road, and winning on the road is always hard, regardless. You know, you got teams out there that are Division I caliber players. They might not be as good as USC's players, but they are still good. So there's always a chance you can lose. So playing on the road is always difficult. Arizona is a very good offensive team. And USC, kind of limped into this game, missing players on offense: Jordan Addison, Mario Williams, Andrew Voorhees. And then on defense, you were missing pretty much some pretty key players at rushing and linebacker: Eric Gentry, Raylan Goforth, Corey Foreman, and if you want to, extend that list, you can throw Romello Height on there. He's been out for pretty much the whole year as well. So, and besides that, you had guys who were already playing less than 100%, and others who had to leave the game. It's just what the injuries they were playing with already were too painful to continue. So I guess my overall thoughts on that is that, they played hard. Arizona's defense isn't really good. So offensively, I thought they performed to the mean. They performed how they should have. There are some areas where, I can nitpick, and, I'll go through the different position groups here very quickly. But 45 points on the road, that's going to get it done 9 times out of 10. And they probably left points on the field as well for various reasons. So I'm just going to stick with the offense. I'll give you my thoughts on the defense in the second segment here. So just with the offense, I'm going to go ahead and start with the quarterback, obviously. Caleb Williams. Anything less would be stupid. Yeah. You could say that, there's areas he can still improve, and there are. He'll be the first to tell you that, but it's hard to nitpick 411 yards through the air, 5 more touchdowns. For the season, that's a touchdown to interception ratio of 24-1. Yeah, so 1 interception thrown through 8 games, and his next 2 games are at home. 3 out of 4 of those games, his final 4 games, will be at the Coliseum. The fourth in that, the 4th game within that will be in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl. I guess if you want to pick the spot to critique Caleb's game to this point, he needs to be more conservative at times. He likes to go big, and instead of taking what's there at times, keeping drives alive, he loves the big shot. And there are times when the offense will stall out because of that. So that's going to come with maturity. Remember, he started 6-7 games as a true freshman at Oklahoma. He's now he started all 8 games as a USC Trojan. So he's got a little bit more than a full season's worth of games under his belt as a starter. And as each one keeps going, he'll retain that knowledge and hopefully, not make the same mistake over and over and over again. What I'm really trying to say is not make the same mistake twice. And there are times when, just, take off, run for the first down or throw to the guy underneath rather than looking for the big play downfield. That'll just make your game. It'll make Caleb's game that much better. It'll make the team even more difficult to defend. They're already difficult to defend. The running backs, solid B+. Look, what I would have loved to have seen the running backs used more. That's not their choice. That's the coach's decision. So I can't fault the running backs for that. Travis Dye, over 100 yards. Probably should have had more. I mean, Arizona gives up over 200 on the ground defensively. USC could have had, if they wanted to, they could have had 200 yards on the ground in the first half. I think they were just over 100 to end the half. Rayleigh Brown had a nice touchdown reception showing his speed to the edge. And Austin Jones, solid as well. As I mentioned, I would have loved to see a little bit more running back usage because of their injury situation. It would help shorten the game. And when you shorten the game, you limit the opportunity for more injuries. And also, considering the offensive line, we're going to get into that group here momentarily. Nothing gives an offensive line more confidence than run blocking. So again, it's a nitpick. They did finish with over 200 yards by the game's finish. And again, Travis Dye is the heart and soul of, some might say the team, but definitely for the running back group. He brings it. And he was also the catalyst on a nice reverse that Michael Jackson, wide receiver, was able to use for a big, I think, 53-yard pickup. Really nice play. Well executed. Speaking of wide receivers and the tight ends, I'm giving this group an A. One, because they stepped up with 2 key integral guys not available. I call them starters. Jordan Addison wasn't anticipated to be playing with his injury, and Mario Williams had some sort of tweak during the week of practice, and he wasn't able to go. Apparently, he played one play, and they took his helmet away. I'll take everyone's word for it. I don't remember seeing him in there. What I do remember seeing him, though, it couldn't have been too serious, whatever this injury was. It's obvious day to day, as Lincoln Riley likes to put the injuries. He came back out, out of the locker room, and he had his black hoodie on, shorts, yellow leggings, and the white towel, and he joined the towel waving brigade. And he was getting up and down. He was lifting them up. He looked like he was pretty loose physically. So whatever the ailment is, it doesn't seem to be too serious. Again, jumping up and down, waving his arms to left and right, having a good time with those guys, doing some towel waving. But the guys who stepped up in their absence, Kyle Ford. I mean, we've talked about him and Taj Washington on the episode yesterday. For those guys to each step up with 100-yard games, Kyle Ford got his first touchdown. Taj Washington had a couple. Brendan Rice had a beautiful touchdown reception in the back of the end zone after he dropped a bullet that bounced off his shoulder pad. Terrell Bynum, solid contribution. So you give this group an A just because of the way they stepped up. Did they have some drops? Sure. However, all things considered, again, with a makeshift mosh pit at the offensive line, these guys still had to go out and perform and have their timing right, and knowing that Caleb might have to be rushed a little bit. Didn't come to fruition that way as far as being rushed, but again, the wide receivers, they did their job. And the tight ends, they weren't involved receiving the ball, but they did a fantastic job blocking and helping to protect Caleb and opening his running hole. So as a whole, the group gets an A. The offensive line. All right, so again, I hinted about this all last week. It came to fruition in the game. Look, I know they were going up against Arizona's defense, which isn't great. You know, they were, I think going into the game, they had, 7 sacks as a team, Arizona. So it's not like they were getting pressure on the quarterback before USC came to town. But still, when you're missing Andrew Voorhees and you now shift Jonah Monheim from right tackle to right guard, you shift Justin Dietich from right guard to left guard, and Mason Murphy is starting at right tackle and he's playing the whole game, and you only get 2 penalties on the offense. One of them is a false start by your captain, Justin Dietich, that's going to happen. So he's got his penalty for the season. Doesn't happen very often. And then obviously there was a holding call on Mason Murphy that took some points off the board, but I'm being told, and I haven't had a chance to watch the replay yet, that it was kind of a BS call. And then when you have Bobby Haskins, who has to leave the game because the shoulder pain is just too much to overcome, Cortland Ford comes in, retakes over. You know, he was a co-starter. I guess we still call him a co-starter. And they don't skip a beat. And they start running the ball in the second half, and they're using Cortland Ford to pull, and they're running behind him. Yeah, you're going to give this group a lot of kudos. Solid A. 200 yards of rushing, no sacks given up. Just to show how well this group performed, Lincoln Riley, Monday evening on the Trojans Live radio show, he offered some praise for offensive lineman Jonah Monheim for playing so well against Arizona. The redshirt sophomore, he graded out in the high 90s at right guard. And that's his first time playing that position as a Trojan. I think that's PFF grading. I know it's fun to look at and to use. I don't know their grading system, but since we're giving out grades, we're going to throw it all out there. Jonah earned high recognition from his head coach. And the offensive line as a group has played outstanding all season. And to come together the way they did on Saturday on the road, everything considered, you got to give them an A. Oh, and a little bonus, they were able to keep a former teammate and friend to Hunter Eccles in check. He was only credited with 3 tackles for the game. Hunter Eccles. If anyone isn't aware of this, he was one of the guys on last year's team that didn't want to play that last game, and it caused some issues in the locker room. And if you were watching the game closely, you might have noticed some jawing back and forth between he and some of the Trojans that he left behind. So overall, offensively, I'm giving the offense an A. Again, so many missing pieces, and having to when you put up 45 points on the road, even against a defense as bad as Arizona's, you can't be graded down because you didn't score 60 or you didn't cover the spread. Remember, you had the referees involved in it. The Pac-12 referees literally took an opportunity away for a field goal at the end of the first half. That's why they got a big old FU from Mark on Locked On USC. And FU used to actually appear on report cards for those of you old enough. An F for your productivity and a U for your conduct. That's what they got. All right, that's going to bring us to this segment, which is going to be inspired by the thrilling new designs featured across Nissan's new lineup of vehicles. Pursue what thrills you in all the new Frontier, Armada, or Pathfinder today, available now at nissanusa.com. So the Arizona Wildcats quarterback, Jaden Delora, he was doing his really best Caleb Williams impersonation on Saturday. He passed for big yards, 380, something like that. He was running for first downs when he had to. He extended drives. And There was one play where he met USC cornerback Sia Wright at the sideline, and he was the last man standing. He laid the boom on the USC cornerback. And at that point, USC was leading 24-16, and you could just kind of sense that Arizona was about to go in and score another touchdown. Just the way the game was playing out. But then all of a sudden, backup safety, Bryson Shaw, he came up with his first interception of the season. There you go. 4 plays later, the Trojans are scoring another touchdown. They extended their lead from 24-16 to 31-16, and it happened because of Bryson Shaw's interception. He talked about it after the game. Alex Grinch said, to key on a certain formation, and Bryson remembered it. He was in the right place at the right time, intercepted the ball. 4 plays later, USC scoring a touchdown, and they've extended their lead to 31-16. And because of that play, Bryson earned the Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year. So there you have it. There is your Nissan thrill moment. Thanks, courtesy of Bryson Shaw. And while it didn't seal the game for USC, it did take kind of take some air out of Arizona to the point where USC had made enough of a separation. So Bryson Shaw, you get the Nissan thrilling moment of the game. Okay, so the defense, they got tested big time, and I mentioned players out. They did it without some necessary tools, to help them perform better. I'll start with the defensive line and the rush ends. So I'm going to give them a B. And I know I'm probably being a little gratuitous here. Nick Figueroa, he had a sack at the rush end. He's made that transition beautifully from defensive lineman. Obviously, his strength is, getting after the quarterback or chasing a running back that's being handed off the ball, not chasing a running back in pass coverage. And again, the stats aren't going to back this up, but they did get pressure on Jaden DeLaura, and they got a couple of tackles for losses. And that's hard to do against an offense like that Arizona puts out there on the field, and especially with a quarterback like Jaden DeLaura, who he has a very quick release, gets rid of the ball quickly, and he might not be Caleb Williams, but he plays a lot like him. Strong arm, quick feet, good wheels. And again, not afraid to contact, as Sia Wright found out. So again, I'm going to give them a B. They were kind of up against it with players missing and the offense they were going up against. The linebackers, I'm trying to be fair here. I'll be, again, you're not going to fault the effort, but if we're looking at the production, B-, C+. But again, when you put all the eggs in the basket, no Eric Gentry, no Raylan Goforth, Corey Foreman unavailable, Romello Height's been unavailable for pretty much the entire season, and then you still have a limited Shane Lee, who's playing. He's not quite back to 100%. He still has a hand issue, and Tuasivi Nomura. Both of these guys are thumpers. I mean, you run support. You do not want to have these guys meeting you in the hole because they will hurt you. But speed isn't their greatest asset. So if against a team like Arizona, covering in space, they're going to be at a disadvantage. So again, I take all that into consideration, and that's where I come up with that grade for that group. The secondary, I wasn't sure where to go with this, so I'm just going to stay with a B. And everyone's like, well, gosh, man, they gave up so many yards. The defense as a whole, they gave up some yards, 37 points. How can you say that they played good or above average? Well, again, when you look at the big picture and not try and focus on this play or that play, but again, just kind of stand back and remember everything that went on and the officiating that's involved in the game. You say, hey, you know what? This group didn't do as bad as I thought they did. They were credited with, 8 pass breakups? They made a lot of tackles. They had to. But they're going against a really, really good group of wide receivers. I mean, I'm still, and I'm probably going to have to admit I was wrong on this eventually. T-Mac, Teotaro McMillan, the freshman wide receiver at Arizona, he's got some mad skills. I mean, 6'5" and can jump. He's got long arms, tremendous dexterity, had a great one-handed catch. You had Cowling. You had Dorian Singer. These guys are making some plays. So it's hard. You got to be really careful how hard you grade against the USC secondary. And again, big-time interception by Bryson Shaw. They are opportunistic. They make the plays when they have to. Kalen Bullock just missed an interception. So they were in the right positions to make plays. And there are times you just got to tip your hat to the other team for making plays as well. I mentioned at the top of the show, USC has better players, but, you only have so much depth. And again, Arizona's starting to put together a decent group on the offensive side of the ball. They had some nice players transfer over. DJ Williams as a running back from Florida State. I just spoke about their wide receivers. And Jed Fish, their head coach, comes from the NFL, is known as having a very good offensive mind. So, hey, I thought Alex Grinch's group as a whole, they were solid. He had to dial up whatever he could. He was throwing the kitchen sink at that Arizona offense. You can only do what you can do with the pieces you have available to play. So again, Bryson Shaw, he really lifted up the secondary in the second half. Defensive Player of the Week for the Pac-12. He had 7 tackles, 5 of those being solo on his own, 1 TFL, and I mentioned his interception. So overall, I'm giving the defense a B-. I could probably go as high as a B, but I'm not going to be too Pollyannish about it. They were going up against a difficult offense to defend. They were without some key players. Could they have played better? Sure. Missed some tackles, gave up some big plays, but hey, the object of the game, the goal is to win, and USC's defense did enough to stop the University of Arizona's offense. And you go home 7-1. That's all you can ask for, right? And one last thing, let's go over the special teams real quickly. C-. There was a bit of a regression here from this group. I love the short kickoffs. I think they should do that more often because the kickoff coverage has gotten really good. Anytime you're preventing the team from starting at the 25-yard line or better, that's a win. So if you're not going to, if you're not going to kick it through the back of the end zone on the touchbacks, kick it to the 1-yard line or to the goal line and angle it to the corner a little bit. So you cut off half the field. And now if you stay in your lanes, as it looks like these guys are doing, you get the other team starting at the 15, 14-yard line, 20-yard line rather than the 25. With that said, I liked when they tried the onside kick. That was Lincoln Riley's call because they were doing it from the 50-yard line. Unfortunately, it didn't execute right. The ball just stayed down, didn't pop up. And they did recover the one they had to at the end of the game. So 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other. It was a little aggressive on the road. You probably want to do that when you're at home. I understand that point. But again, not a huge deal. But again, that comes down to execution more than the play call itself. Because again, have they been doing because they were doing it from the 50-yard line, Arizona gets the ball at the 40 rather than the 25, and I'm not sure 15 yards really makes a difference with the Arizona offense. At least it did on Saturday, it appeared. The field goals, though, 1 for 3 from Dennis Lynch. I don't really fault him for the 56-yard miss. I would have liked it to have looked a little bit better. I mean, I know it was kind of rushed, a little helter-skelter, getting the guys out there. Nevertheless, I don't know if on the road is the time to test Dennis's leg strength. I know he was knocking it down during pregame warmups, but again, you're not being rushed by anybody, and you can take your time, not have to worry about the crowd or having the kick blocked. So, and then as far as Aiden Dalton's sleep, he only had 1 punt opportunity, and the fact that he was able to get that ball away without it being blocked, kudos to the freshman. If you watch carefully, you can see him actually direct his foot, contort it a certain way to get that ball away. It kind of went straight up, but at least it wasn't blocked. So special teams, they regressed a little bit. Hopefully they can bounce back. Again, you got your neck. You don't leave Southern California for the rest of this regular season, so let's get it done. Overall, team grade, got to go B. You got the win on the road against a solid offense, missing some key players. I'm not going to grade too harsh on this. No sweat for me. You know who sweats? Mike. He's a concierge in Las Vegas, and within an hour on the job, when he got on duty, he was sweating through his suit. Well, not anymore, thanks to SweatBlock. Mike was able to fix his problem with SweatBlock. SweatBlock wipes, what they do is it's a must-have for everyone. You keep them in your pocket, in your little toiletry bag, whatever, whether it's for a big presentation or it's on a hot date, whatever. SweatBlock wipes can come in handy. So if you or someone you love is experiencing embarrassing sweat or odor, try SweatBlock. You can save 20% with promo code LOCKEDON at sweatblock.com, and it's also available on Amazon. This is our Coach Hindsight segment. Kind of throw stuff out there. Benefit of the doubt, being able to sit on the couch. Or in my case, this situation, I don't know if I mentioned it on the episode Locked on USC yesterday. However, I had the honor of spotting for Pete Arbogast on Sean Cody in the radio, who does the radio play-by-play for USC during the games. Situation came up where they needed someone to come in and be the spotter. Essentially what I do is after each play, I point to Pete Arbogast's chart, and I point at the player number, who made the tackle, who completed the pass, caught the pass, that type of stuff. That way Pete can keep his eyes on the field and not have to look at a chart trying to find everything. I'm just pointing out it so he's ready to go. It was a really cool, unique experience, and I want to thank you, Pete, for the opportunity. Anytime, buddy. Be more than happy to do that again. Okay, so as I was saying, Coach Hindsight. I kind of gave my opinion in the previous segment. What do you think? Was it the right time to go for the onside kick, or is that too aggressive when you're on the road? Again, I had no problem with the timing of it because of they were kicking off from the 50 as opposed to 35. And if they recover the ball, he looks like a genius, right? Everyone thought it was great when Oregon's head coach Dan Lanning did it against UCLA. Well, he was at home. That makes a difference. I don't know. What do you think? You tell me. And should USC publicly demand an explanation from the Pac-12 for their incompetency? Now, look, I know you don't demand an explanation, and number two, you're not going to get one. And I've already offered my grade, but Don't you think the Pac-12, George Kliavkoff, Merton Hanks, somebody by now should have come out with a statement saying, hey, we made a mistake. It's something we need to improve on and something we're going to make a concerted effort to do. No? Or just deal with it? Look, I don't know what else to say. Oh, one last thing we'll say on this episode of Locked On USC before we get out of here. Dan Lanning, our friends over there at Oregon, should he be sending his resume in to Auburn? If you haven't heard by now, Auburn fired their head coach, Bryan Harsin, and we know Oregon is stepping stone U. Is Dan Lanning having too successful of a season to stay at Oregon? Will he want to get back to the SEC, where he made his bones as a defensive coordinator at Georgia? Who knows? Stay tuned. Should he stay at Oregon? All right, so there you go. Another episode of Locked On USC in the books for this week. We come at you 5 times a week. And when you're not watching Locked On USC, don't forget about WeAreSC.com. Head on over there. We've got a subscription special going on. $10 will get you a VIP subscription through the end of August 2023. That takes you all the way through fall camp. And then when you're not checking out our written content over there, you need to head on over to, the Locked On Sports today, because they're going to give you all of your all the sports stories that don't involve USC. You can find over there as well, whether it's on this app, on YouTube, or wherever you download your podcast. Check it out. All right, there you go. I'll be back again for another episode of Locked On USC. We come at you 5 times a week. But until then, everyone, you know what to do.